At first glance, techno and humour don't really appear to fit together. However, Detroit's homegrown Kenny Larkin did actually start off as a stand-up comedian, but that was before embarking on his journey into the techno scene at the end of the 80s. It was the widely acclaimed albums he went on to release on Warp, R&S and Peace Frog that won him international recognition. Some of his best buddies include Carl Craig, who released Kenny's most recent and dancefloor compatible album to date, Keys, Strings and Tambourines, on his label Planet E. But Kenny has not lost touch with the comedian in him and continues to work hard on his career in comedy. His other interests include modern architecture and photography.
Many people ask me, why do you do so many photographs of yourself? Or what do you like to photograph? I don't know. Whatever catches my eye. When I'm photographing myself, it's just because I'm being silly and stupid. Excuse me. I like to photograph myself in different situations, and then also, like, if I'm out photographing buildings or anything like that, it could be something that repeats that I find interesting, like columns or something like that, or even the shapes of things. I'm more of a visceral person. When I visual and I see shapes and stuff, and it tugs at you on the inside. Who knows why? Why do people grow up liking the color black or blue, or who knows? But I've had this thing inside of me since I was a kid, so I just grab pictures of whatever I think is interesting. There's a commonality between art and taking pictures and music and everything for me. And that common thing is chaos. I think when you start approaching any of those things with some type of formula, you lose the art. You lose the whole vibe of the whole thing that you're trying to do. So when I do music, some guy asked me the other day, well, how do you do music? Well, I just sit down and I do music. I don't like start with a drum beat, start with a hi-hat. That's not my style. Who knows, I'm in this big field right now and I can see a pipe and it goes curvy and whatever. If it strikes me inside, I'll take a picture of it. If I'm working at the keyboard, I'm working on a melody. If it strikes me, I'll start there. If not, I'll start with strings. Who knows, it's always something different every time. And I think that's the way you keep it fresh and interesting. There's two things to me that music that transcends race, language, cultures, everything. There's music, because you don't have to have lyrics to speak to people. You can do it through music. You can do it through music. It's fantastic to be able to go to Russia or Croatia and you don't speak one lick of their language. They don't speak the same of yours other than hello, and then you rock the house and then they're just moved by something on the inside. And humans have those two things, music, and then I think it's smell. Smell can take you, if you smell the flower, it can take you back 20 years to where you first smelled the flower. And music is the same. You can hear a song and it will take you back instantly to when you were a kid and you were playing with your parents and you had these good times. So it's really cool to have those things that like kind of play with your brain a little bit and kind of make you live a little bit more loosely, as opposed to straight and analytical and, well, it has to be this way. It's just, it never works like that. I've always been that kind of person where I work from the heart with music. Now, that there's downsides to that. Well, some people think there's downsides, which is I serve my artistry more than what people might like. In other words, if I have a ton of songs, I'll pick the songs for an album that I like, not that I think other people will like. So then people think, oh, his music is too weird, or I can't understand it, or we can't play this in the club because it's not, pumping enough or whatever. But I pick stuff that I like and stuff that rings true to me and what I'm about. And there's no formula or contract to it. It's just chaos. It's just blah. It's just there. It's like a amoeba. It pumps and it grows and it just. And it's on its own free will. It's just how it's supposed to be.
You are God in physical body. You are spirit of the flesh. You are cosmic being. You are all power. You are all wisdom. You are all intelligence. You are perfection.
My new album it's called Keys, Strings, Tambourines, and you might guess what the main part of the album is: keys, strings, and tambourines, in that order, actually. And it's a project I worked on for probably a year and a half, maybe. And it's coming out on Carl Craig's label, Planet E. And it's a continuation of my sound, but it's more pumping, it's more clubby. So I'm typically not the kind of guy who goes and does a lot of club tracks. So I just do stuff that kind of I feel, and it usually ends up being stuff that you listen to at home. But this one is a little bit different. It's a bit more. But also I wrote a couple of these tracks in different cities and countries, like in Sydney and some other countries. So it's cool to be able to go to those other different cities and get different inspiration. You draw different inspiration off whatever your surroundings is. I'm one of those guys. I get inspiration from my surroundings. Yeah, so I think it's probably one of my best. I mean, I would say that. I mean, but everybody's gonna say that their latest is their best, right? I'm not gonna dog my shit, right? It sucks. Don't buy it. No, I think it's one of my best. I mean, and I'll tell you why I think that is because Carl is so critical of what he releases on his label. So this is the first album he's released in a long time. Full-length album on his label. So, and he really likes it. So, I mean, that gives me the confidence enough to say, oh yeah. And then also everybody's, the people that I've given the songs to, they're playing them a lot, like Derek and a lot of these guys at the clubs. And I'm like, oh, it's always shocking for me to hear my own shit in clubs. Like, I will never play my stuff. You come up to me and say, play your own stuff, I'm gonna be like, fuck you, man. I'll let other people do that. I'm too shy to play my own stuff. I'll let y'all play that. Am I babbling? I talk a lot. I'm sorry. I've always been one of those kind of kids when I was little to have a sense of self. I don't know if you know what that means. Like strong sense of self. Like, I know who I am, that kind of thing. And self-esteem and like strong character. And so I was always, since I was a little kid, always able to say no to stuff that was offered me as I was a kid. So it was easy for me to grow up and not take any drugs or a lot of alcohol. I mean, I don't drink alcohol. I drink a glass of wine every now and then, but I don't drink it regularly. I don't do drugs. Never been high. Never been none of that shit. That's just not my thing. I'm silly enough. I don't need. People usually drink to get all crazy. I'm crazy enough, so I don't really need. I'd be in jail somewhere with my ass in the air, probably getting. Yeah, okay. That's a joke. I ain't gay. I'm telling you. No, so no, I'm just one of those guys that have I know what I'm